My name is Zoe Castillo and I did Russia. The geography of Russia, the size of it is at least about 1.8 times the size of the United States. And the climate, normally in the summer it's warm and dry, but in the winters it can get to about negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The vegetation is divided into 6 main sections. The tundra, which hardly has any plant life, and then the taiga, which is a rich land full of forest and green. Then there is the mixed and delicious forest, where it's less plants and a lot of more grass. After that, it goes into the wooded steppes, which is a transition of forest to the grasslands. The mountains, Russia is mainly mountainous, and one of the most popular mountains is the Ural Mountains, which separates the European and Asian side of Russia. And then the lakes, since all the glaciers and the snow from each peak that comes down, Russia has many lakes, but one of the most famous ones is Lake Baikal, and it contains the world's 1/5 of the world's most fresh water, and it's the largest lake in the world, well, deepest. Their cultures, the dominant cultures, Russia is mainly a caste system where it's the rich and the poor, and it's masculine. So basically, the more richer families get everything, and since if you're male, you get more than everyone else would, just like how the poor get less. Some of the holiday traditions during any celebration, tables are spreaded with salads, appetizers, warm meats, and pies made of either cabbage or like meat. They eat a lot of meat. And for the drinks, it's wine or vodka, which I'm pretty sure everyone would have thought of vodka. So during that, they do a lot of cheers and quotes that they stand up and say when they're drunk. And the clothes that they wear is, the boys wear long sleeve shirts that are red or blue that have an embroidered collar, and the girls wear a red or green dress with a long sleeve blouse that's preferably white, and then an ornate kokoshnish. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a headdress. So, as you can see, that's the headdress that they wear. The arts is basically the history that comes from everything they did. Mostly everything that they thought of and came up with was from the Romantic poetry that Alexander Pushkin started to write. He was known as the next greatest Shakespeare in Russian culture. After that, the 20th century, people became more fond of the realistic novels, and then that came into television. The people and family. Friendship, since children back then during the Soviet Union's rule, they put children into different schools, but kids would grow up in the same school throughout their whole entire
The library will be closing in 30 minutes.
their
If you need
whole
a print, check out or call for a ride. Please do so at this time. Again, the library is closing in 30 minutes.
they will do that. They will go to that school throughout their whole life, so all the people that are around them, they will become great friends with. So that's who they mainly stick around with. The housing is, when you get married, you mainly go to your husband's side of the family, but since now newlyweds are becoming more independent, they are trying to get apartments, but since in Russia their paying system is the same, everyone gets the same paycheck no matter if you're better at your job than someone else's, so it's harder to get apartments, so people have to stay in their houses, and normally it's a 3-generation building. for them. Family inheriting is mostly, since it's masculine and men get everything, once someone passes away or when someone is writing their will, the grandparents or parents will mainly write their will to and spread their land and earnings to the male side of the family. So if someone is a son and they have 3 sons, they'll give more stuff to them. The maintenance leadership is, since Russia has a lot of land and is the largest country, they have many regions inside, and in those regions they have different people who speak different languages from their native tongue. So they have to, for their schools, they have to abide with some rules that, since kids are they already know and grown up with this language, they allow them to speak that language, but they also need to learn Slavic language, which is like Russian and Tatar, one of the main official languages. The languages taught in school are basically Russian and Tatar, and to the other ones, their native tongue. For the boys and girls, their expectation for the boys, they are expected to be loud, noisy, obnoxious, and for the girls, quiet and studious. The government and the regional parts in teaching, the government has to provide the textbooks. They have to hire the teachers and do school requirements like math and science lessons, while the regions take care of the school financing and the history lessons and social studies and stuff like that. For higher education, which means going to a university or a college, to get your first degree, you have to go there for 5 years. And so for the universities, this is the Moscow State University, which is the oldest university in Russia, which was founded in 1755. Religion, the main religion in Russia is the Russian Orthodox, which came from Prince Vladimir, who converted the Slavs to Orthodox Christianity because they separated themselves with Catholic people because they didn't like how they were taking the money from the people who went to their churches. So they split into that, and since it was in the religion so long, they just made it Russian Orthodox. And for Islam, since the people in the south are all Islamic and stuff, when they moved up during some of the wars and stuff, they started continuously practicing their religion, which made this the second religion for Russia. And then the rituals is they go to church on Sunday or on any other holy day, and they do a worship chant that is during long hours of service. So they do that, and they also light the candles and pray and bow to church figures such as Virgin Mary. Stuff like you would see in Catholic churches, which is basically what they're basically like Catholics, but they don't do what the Catholics do. Social activities. Mainly the wealth travel because of their system. The wealthy get paid more because they're men. But they bring back very luxurious goods, which tend to go to charities sometimes. But for the middle class, since they don't have as much money, they tend to participate in charities and support different functions so that they don't get bored during the day. And for sports is one of the main things that teens or like anybody who doesn't really want to go into a job does. They join the Olympics and they practice their sport, but since sometimes there's hardly any funding, that those people aren't able to go into the Olympics and join the teams, so they just do fishing. That's it.
show.
Anybody have questions?
So, do they look down on the women population over
Yes.
to?
They do a lot. I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, they are very masculine. The men are the head of the house and everything, just like you would see in different countries that people have talked about today. So, yeah.
So what if the family is not, a male is not born, all they have is just a female, so then where do their inheritance go to then?
It would still be divided into the different people, or into their children, but say one of the daughters have 3 or 2 sons, they would
Okay.
get more, since
Okay.
the sons are basically more powerful. They eat a lot of meat, they eat sausage and cheese, but they're mostly focused on drinking. So,
And then as far as their education, what are they required? Are they required to go higher in education or?
most kids that succeed in their first part of education, they go into the higher education. But some families, since they're poor, the parents are like, you already finished this is all you need, just get a job. So mainly some of the rich get to go into the higher education, to the universities.
Okay, I promise, I'm gonna stop, but one question, as far as, why do everyone get paid the same pay regardless of how long they've been there?
Well, it's their government. Their government is I'm drawing a blank, but their government basically is like, no matter what, if you're better than this person, you get paid the same.
So what is the price of their cost of living there?
See, that part it didn't show, but I mean, if I did more research, I'm pretty sure it would be, because I know that when they get paid, it's like at least like $20 for the low class, and an apartment would be like 1,000 maybe.
So if the apartment is 1,000, they get paid 20, how would they?
Well, like the inheritance that comes from the farms and the houses that they already have.
Okay, now that festivity, is that like once a year or?
Oh no, that's their traditional dancing. It can come during holidays, and it can also come just as different performances that go around the world. And they're really pretty too.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
How do people in Russia dress?
They normally dress like regular people, but during their traditional holidays, that's how they dress. Yeah.
Have you ever watched any Russian soap?
So, oh no, no, I haven't.
They're really romantic.